Succession focuses on the Roy family, a wealthy and dysfunctional dynasty that controls Waystar RoyCo, a global media and entertainment conglomerate. The patriarch, Logan Roy, played by Brian Cox, is an authoritative figure who looms large over his children, Ken, Roman, Shiv and Connor, especially Kendall Roy, played by Jeremy Strong, who struggles to prove himself as Logan's worthy successor. Kendall's relationship with his father is one of the most complex and central dynamics in Succession. It dances between admiration, rivalry, and deep-seated resentment. Kendall is obsessed with gaining Logan's approval and validation. From the start of the series, it's clear that Kendall has spent much of his life trying to prove himself worthy of inheriting Waystar RoyCo, but Logan's cold, domineering nature makes this nearly impossible. Logan constantly undermines Kendall's attempts to assert himself as a leader, keeping Kendall insecure and dependent. A key scene early on that signifies Logan's disappointment in his son is Kendall turning up to Logan's 80th birthday party instead of staying at the office and closing a key business deal. As Kendall puts it, he chose to come to his father's birthday, and most fathers would be devastated at their son choosing work over family, but not Logan, who sees this situation as fuel for not stepping down and giving the throne to his son. Logan exerts immense psychological control over Kendall. He dangles the promise of succession in front of Kendall, but always yanks it away, using it as a tool to manipulate his son. There's also the thing with the waiter, whatever happened there. Kendall often believes he's next in line, only to be publicly humiliated by Logan or have his ambitions thwarted. Logan views Kendall as weak, often belittling him in front of others and exploiting his vulnerability, especially his struggles with substance abuse. Despite all the betrayals, Kendall still yearns for some form of familial bond with his father. Logan, in turn, seems to enjoy the cat and mouse game with Kendall, occasionally showing moments of fatherly affection, but never allowing it to develop into a genuine emotional connection. He sees Kendall as both a potential heir and a threat that must be kept under control, as we delved into in my video on why Logan pissed in Kendall's office. After having initially staged an unsuccessful coup against his father in Season 1, Kendall is brought back into the fray in Season 2 after initially being ostracized, and from there he becomes a loyal servant of his father, the hand of the king if you will, even gutting Volta at the orders of his father against his own desires. He impresses in the hearings against Waystar over an abuse scandal on the company's cruises, but it becomes apparent that someone must take the fall, someone must take the blame for the cruises fiasco and likely face jail time. Whoever it is, Logan will take care of them, but their time at the company as a higher-up will surely be over. In a tense season finale, as the upper echelons await Logan's decision on who the blood sacrifice will be, after a bunch of chicken stealing and iPad throwing, it is revealed that Kendall Roy will take the fall, and a dejected Kendall, just out of interest, asks his father whether he thinks he could have ever been the one to replace him. As Logan says, "You're not a killer, you have to be a killer." Kendall accepts his fate and holds a press conference where he will admit blame for the cruise scandal. But in a shocking twist, Kendall instead calls out his father, calling him a liar and beginning the launch of a war against his father. Why and when Kendall exactly chose to rebel is something we can discuss another day. In fact, there's so much to discuss regarding this, like Kendall planting the Judas kiss on his father, or the family all having one last meal together like the Last Supper. Talk of a sacrificial lamb, Kendall lying in the pool with crucifix symbolism, but it's Logan's reaction to Kendall's speech, the final shot of the season, that we're discussing today. In Season 3, Logan goes on to throw his weight against Kendall, to use his powers to defeat him. He is furious with him, doesn't want to be in the same room as him, calls him a traitor and all sorts, but the immediate reaction to Kendall's speech is one that can only be described as the faintest of smiles. It's such a strange reaction for Logan to have for anything, let alone his son trying to single-handedly destroy him and everything he has built. So what gives? Did Tom just walk in with some replacement chicken? An ironic smile maybe that is full of pent-up fury? Or, on a more serious point, was Logan relishing the chance to go man-to-man against Kendall in what he would call a knife in a mud fight? Well, it's close, But what Logan was actually feeling in that moment, as crazy as it sounds, was pride. He was actually proud of his son in what might be the only time in the series that he felt this way about Kendall. As Kendall said, his father has a twisted sense of loyalty, and this is never better emphasized than after the fact that Logan's son, once upon a time his successor, is openly betraying him in public, and he's smiling. Brian Cox has spoken of this scene, saying, "It was inevitable but surprising in terms of Kendall having been so careful through the whole second season. He shied away from his strength, Kendall has. Logan knew in order to sacrifice himself, he would have to do it through his family. He figured that the one chance he had was to make Kendall into the killer. That's why, at the end, he smiled. He's achieved what he was after. My son has come of age. He's now officially a killer." And that's what Kendall proves to his father here, that he's got that audaciousness, that killer instinct to do something so brazen and wild, something Logan himself might do. Sure, it involves killing him in the process, pushing him out of the company and probably sending him to prison, but as Logan says at one point, it's all part of the game. And here, game recognizes game, and now the game is on. Kendall has rung the drums of war. Does he have what it takes to really take on and take out his father? You come at the king, you best not miss. Twice. As Cox continues, the smile is him saying, finally my son is stepping up to the plate, doing what he needs to do to run a business. Finally, he's the heir apparent to Waystar RoyCo. In a way, it's a completion. But there's life in the old dog yet. We've got quite a journey now. Logan has to reclaim himself. He needs to even the odds. It's a combination of both. It's a combination of finally my son has come of age and now I'm in for a real fight. But at least it's going to be a fight within the family. So I'm going to have to deal with the shareholders, but ultimately it's back to us. It's back to where we are. So it's a kind of combination. In Logan's eyes, Kendall has been dilly-dallying for 2 seasons now, fumbling key decisions and always full of self-doubt and self-loathing, increased by the waiter incident. But here, Logan is witness to Kendall's emerging ruthlessness and ambition, qualities which Logan values. Kendall has previously let his sentimentality get the better of him, even let the love of his father get the better of him. As mentioned, going to Logan's birthday party instead of staying at Waystar. That humanity is one of his best qualities, but to Logan it is a weakness. And by taking a stand against his father, by going for the jugular, he throws that humanity out, that bond with his dad, and replaces it with that killer instinct his father didn't believe he had. A quote from Sicario comes to mind. "This is a land of wolves, and you are not a wolf." Except now Logan is proving that he is. There is something about this moment that feels like it's out of a history book page of an ancient empire. Sultan Selim the Grim taking the Ottoman throne from his father, or Aurangzeb of the Mughal dynasty doing the same. Speaking of ancient empires, in societies of old, sons often had to compete daring rites of passages, dangerous tasks where they would return as men and make their families proud. This was Kendall passing his rite of passage, and in doing so, Logan was given a battle. He was awakened by a new foe that he had created. This was a chance to see if Kendall really was the successor, after Shiv and Roman had proven themselves inadequate. He was relishing the war that lay ahead. And let's be honest, none of the other kids had the gall to pull this move that Kendall did, whether you consider it ridiculous or genius. Speaking of Roman, it is he who said in season 1, the only way he'll respect you is if you try to destroy him, because in your position that is exactly what he would try to do. And if you go back to Kendall's failed vote of no confidence, Logan's reaction afterwards almost seems like he was annoyed at how poorly the coup was staged, as much as it being staged in the first place. There's dialogue from Logan early on in the show that are telling, like, "I hear you bent for him and he fucked you," and "sometimes it is a big dick competition." That and the fact that his season 1 health scare didn't make him step down shows us that you will literally have to kill him to get him to step down. Kendall would have to carry out a hostile takeover, a successful one, unlike last time. Logan would claw and scream and roar and use all of his powers. But if Kendall would be able to pull it off, there would be an element of Logan that would respect him for it, an element that knew his company was going to a worthy successor. Jesse Armstrong, the show's creator, has spoken on the scene, saying, "That's in the script, but I think Brian performs it even more brilliantly than anything I could have suggested. But that was something he aimed for." There is actually a fan theory, probably more popular during the show's run than now, that Logan was actually in on the whole thing, that he and Kendall planned this, or at the very least that he knew what Kendall would do, that it was all part of some plan. But this is highly unlikely. Succession isn't really that kind of show, and the idea that Logan is a mastermind pulling the strings is undercut throughout the show. So what did you make of this scene? Let me know in the comments section below, subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.